Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of The Infinite Danger Room, our podcast where we talk about comics, movies, and other fun, geeky, and nerdy things. I'm Matt Price. I'm here with Matt Howlett and Chris Borthwick, and today we're going to talk about Rogue One, the Star Wars story, the latest or the first in a series of Star Wars anthology films that won't be part of the Skywalker saga exactly, but telling side stories happening in that universe, with films on Boba Fett and Han Solo also planned. But Rogue One doesn't really feature a named character from the original trilogy that we'd really hang our hat on. It's kind of just a look back at what happened prior to some of the events of A New Hope. And of course, we'll get into more as we go along here as far as what this film is about. At this point, we're releasing this after the first weekend that the film has been out, so we are going to go into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, if you don't want to be spoiled on anything that happens in the film, save this for after you see it, because we are going to go into some spoilers in our discussion today. So again, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to throw it over to Matt Howlett, who recently watched this film. Chris also recently watched it. And we're all just going to kind of discuss our feelings, where we're at on it, what we think about it, as we go into Rogue One.
All right. Opening scene with Mads Mikkelsen. I can never say his last name right. I'm a fan of his, though. I've seen everything he's in. Where we see the director... Let's see. I can't think of the name. Director. I can't think of it. Orson Krennic. That's right. That's who it was. Krennic. Yeah. Where he approaches his character, Galen Erso, and basically says, like, "Hey, we've hit kind of a stumbling block here, building the Death Star. We need you to come back." And it's revealed that he is basically the designer of the Death Star, and they need him to help their engineers finish the project. And of course, a tragic scene where they shoot his wife, and they know that he has a child, and they hunt the planet or the site of the planet he was on, trying to find her. They're unsuccessful. This is, I think, probably the first movie I've seen, or TV show that I've seen with Mads, where he plays a protagonist.
Where he's a good guy.
I mean, I was seriously waiting for him to bite the director's nose off or something like that, like he would in Hannibal. This guy is... I guess I'm just so petrified of him from Hannibal and Casino Royale that I would seriously was waiting for that to happen, where he was going to do something extremely terrible to show that he's not someone to be messed with. And in this movie, he was a very easy, soft character, and was a likable dad essentially. That doesn't mean that he put in any less of a performance. I thought he was great.
Sure.
But that actor alone, anytime I seen him in a movie, whether it was Doctor Strange or was his 3-season run on Hannibal, which if we had the fill in time, we'll talk about that in length, is anything he's in is worth watching. So.
All right. Well, wow, Star Wars. Where to begin? Rogue One. I really like this film for a lot of different reasons. I thought it had a really good plot. It was a really great bridge between episode 3 and 4. I also really enjoyed all the fan sort of nods and the nods to continuity. Darth Vader's castle, which has shown up in some lore and stuff over the years. It was really cool to see that actually appear on the big screen. I really like the little references to, of course, to hey, you're gonna have to contact your Jedi friend that's in hiding. Hey, and the immediate Captain Antilles, the captain of the Tantive 4. I like all of those little nods. I like wow, so many things coming back to me, I guess. I like the Jedi temple being mined of the lightsaber crystals, because that's all the kyber crystals are old school continuity that I don't know that they're actually mentioned too much in the main movies, but up until now. But I really think that was a great fan nod. I enjoyed a lot of the different fill-in for this, and the Rebel Alliance, the Yavin 4 base, once again seeing it in its prime operating day, the nice cut-ins of the original X-Wing squadron leaders making appearances in the film during the battle, all of that was just like, I don't know, it was definitely a service to the older fans and the new fans all at once to kind of bring it all together. And of course, seeing Darth Vader in true vicious fighting action at the end of the movie, with the lightsabers and just being a nightmare of telekinetic terror as he tries to stop the rebels from taking the Death Star plans. It was just an overall a very good movie. It had some stories of redemption, but one of my friends likened it to, it was also kind of like the Dirty Dozen a little bit.
Sure.
And I kind of characterized it as it's like, well, it's not quite Game of Thrones Star Wars, but don't get attached.
Pretty close, yeah.
Don't get too attached.
It's sort of like a Star Wars movie with more focus on the war than the star.
Yep.
Usually it's the other way around.
Yep.
It's Star Wars. This is sort of Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is like a war movie set
about-
in that universe.
Yep.
What about that third act space battle? Was that not the best space battle in any Star Wars movie you've ever seen?
That was amazing, yeah.
It was really
good.
cool. I really did like how they had pulled some unused footage from Star Wars and got Gold Leader and Red Leader into it. I will say, probably just on the top of my comments, I'm not sure I liked it as much as you guys. I think as Star Wars films go, it's probably in the bottom half.
Sure.
But that said, there's no reason you couldn't go and enjoy it. It felt a little more like a Star Wars movie for Star Wars fans, whereas The Force Awakens kind of felt like a Star Wars movie to kind of bring everybody back into that world. This felt more like, in some points I'm watching, I'm thinking, this story should be a comic. It's explaining sort of a nitpicky thing from the original
Right.
film, like why is it so easy for Luke Skywalker to blow up the Death Star? So it's almost taking like a fan nitpick and making it into a movie. So that's maybe, if I have a complaint, it just felt like maybe it was a little too inside baseball in some of what it was doing. That said, a bunch of people have gone to see it, so maybe at this point, even if it's inside for Star Wars fans, that's a huge percentage of the population at this point.
Sure.
And I do think it worked as a movie, but that's just where if I was going to complain, it feels a little inside as far as a lot of the things they're dropping. It's like, yeah, if you've been a longtime fan, that's there, but do you want to be pulled out of it that much to notice those things? I don't know. Or does it pull other people out of it or not?
True. I didn't feel pulled out of it. I was just like, oh, that's cool. And I kept going. I just thought it was really interesting. Also, you have to clarify, when you say the bottom of the Star Wars list, where
Bottom
exactly?
half.
Bottom half. But like, are you talking like it's under episodes 1, 2, and 3? Or are you going to put it like in the middle? Or where are you putting it?
Well, that might be a whole discussion, but
Okay,
but below the first 3 and the third prequel, probably for me.
Okay.
Oh, so that means that you say
Like-
Force Awakens is
Well, and probably below Force Awakens also. Sorry.
Really?
So
Oh, okay.
those it's just,
All right.
as far as what I enjoyed
Okay.
about them, I probably enjoy the original trilogy more. I probably enjoy Force Awakens more. This is in the neighborhood of probably that third prequel, but maybe not quite as good because you're fulfilling a lot about those characters.
Right.
Where this is just more kind of, by intention, a sidebar, but almost felt like in some places maybe a little too cute.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it cute, but I mean,
Well, I mean, it's also very dark, but
but-
you know what I'm saying. I mean, well, of course, that's,
the android though, the droid is of course, and the droid appearances are usually the funny parts, and they did have a interesting sort of assassin-esque droid with them who was humorous, played by Alan Tudyk. who was
yeah, and I
fantastic.
guess I'm not really like too cute with like the humor because I thought the droid was good, but I mean, just like, I guess as we're going to put this piece into place, we're going to put this piece into place,
Sure.
we're going to put this piece into place. Maybe that was a little much for me of like the ending. I thought, well, if we want to go to the ending, the CG stuff.
The CG stuff was a little awkward. I agree. Now that was probably my least favorite part was the Tarkin and the Leia CG characterizations. It was neat that they were trying to do it, but I was just kind of like, well, I almost wish you'd just like cut Carrie Fisher out of a piece of film and like imposed her in there,
Or
So,
shoot from behind. It just seemed like a little much.
Don't try to be so fancy because you're not there yet. I agree with that. Now, I saw something interesting today. I don't know if you guys have seen this on social media, but there's been a couple articles about what got left out of the movie.
Mm-hmm. I haven't really seen them, but I saw some articles that come out.
The trailer apparently has a lot of scenes in it that are not in the movie, including a scene with a TIE fighter at the end of the Skywalk when Jen is running to activate the communications array. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of scenes they've done stop animation on where the two of them are, Cassian and her, actually running on the beach with the droid and the plans that are like firmly clipped to her belt. And so I thought all that was interesting, and there was a lot of talk of the reshoots. There's a couple scenes with Vader that are apparently in the trailer that are not actually in the movie. So I thought that was a pretty interesting article to come up today.
Maybe they're going to do a Jared Leto Joker ultimate cut of Rogue
Oh,
One,
Lord.
where they shot enough scenes with Darth Vader to make their own movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is not a bad movie.
No,
just to be clear.
No. I just thought it was interesting because until the article came up, that didn't really resonate with me, and then I was like, then they showed all the pictures, and I was like, well, no, that's interesting. So, I don't know. I think the final cut works really well, so I'm not complaining that they left out the trailer teasers by any means, but I hadn't noticed it. So, I would say that definitely go see that movie.
Speaking of cameos and things like that, you mentioned earlier, Jimmy Smith's Bail Organa.
Oh yeah,
anything he's in is just awesome.
Yeah.
I know I focus on the actors because that's kind of what I follow. But from NYPD Blue,
Yep.
Even when he's on The West Wing, I mean, those are just shows that they could almost make a Bail Organa spin-off movie, and I think that they could tell a good story with that character. Just the politics of Star Wars could be like a TV show on its own.
He does show up in Rebels quite a bit, so you should probably check Rebels out.
Fortunately, I haven't watched Rebels, but I will. I know that
It's time for you to.
there
go
are
that
several
road.
references to Rebels in this movie as well. From what I understand, the ship Ghost
The
was
Ghost.
seen in the space battle in the third
That's
act.
cool.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I think it was a blink and you'll miss it kind of like.
Sure.
I haven't really watched Rebels either, although people tell me it's good, and I haven't even watched. I watched a good chunk of the Clone Wars, but at some point I kind of stopped as well.
My thing with Rebels, to be honest with you guys, for Rebels is season 1 is kind of that rough season where it's a little more kiddie than it is Star Wars, and then you get into season 2 and you've got Vader showing up and you've got all of this Jedi stuff really starting up. 2 is the best jump on point but you need some of season 1 just to catch up.
I'm fine with watching it from the very beginning. I mean, I have a young child at home that I think would be interested in it.
Yeah.
Okay, Star Wars Rebels is not on Netflix.
No, it is not.
Clone Wars is, though.
There is a lot of Clone Wars tie-in to Star Wars Rebels. Actually, some of the Clone Wars characters show up.
And you guys were mentioning that one of the characters in this film.
Saw Gerrera, played by Forrest Whitaker, was in the Clone Wars. That character is a George Lucas creation as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, he wanted him to be in Attack of the Clones, if I'm not mistaken, and just couldn't really quite find a way to fit him in the story, so it was just kind of left on the drawing board, or so to speak. And they were able to include him, obviously, in the animated show, and then also tie him into this movie with Forrest Whitaker. Gareth Edwards, the director, said that the most important review of the movie came from George Lucas himself, who said he liked the film, which, if you know the history of that, George Lucas was not a big fan of Force Awakens. So, no, I don't know if George Lucas just said he liked the film because he's standing right there and said, say something. But I think that George Lucas probably liked it because of the callbacks to the castle. Vader's castle was obviously probably one of his ideas. This character we're talking about, Saw, was one of his ideas, and he didn't like Force Awakens because they didn't use any of his ideas. So I think that maybe they're stroking his ego a little bit.
Well,
saying,
and there's also a difference in some ways, and I can see where Lucas might come down. When you're doing Rogue One, you have to fit it in the framework. When you're doing The Force Awakens, you're building a new framework. So if you take the stuff George Lucas has written, no one's ever seen it, so you're either going with it or not. But if you're doing Rogue One, you can't just have it go off.
No.
It's got to tie in together.
Fair enough.
So I think I can see why, if you had thought in your head this is where Luke ends up, this is where Leia ends up, this is where Han ends up, and then they don't do that.
Right.
Maybe that's frustrating. But when you go back and say, oh, well, this fits in with what I thought of the characters, because it basically does. It does feel like a Star Wars movie. I can see why he would like it better from that point of view. Now, none of us know exactly what was in George Lucas's head as far as where those characters end up, so it's harder for us to judge The Force Awakens on that particular character, at least on that criteria, what George would have done, because we don't really know.
Yeah. I will say for Rogue one of the things I was a little disappointed in, though, was we had this character that was sort of Jedi-esque, at least Force sensitive, because it was very obvious he was working through the Force and dodging weapons and doing all sorts of stuff, and was blind and yet completely able to see, quote quote. I kind of thought we would have a Vader kills a Jedi sort of moment in the film based on that, but the character ends up sacrificing himself in a very cool fashion that was fitting to him and the film. But I was also kind of thinking that since Vader was going to be in it, that was one of the impetus, was hello Jedi,
and that Vader would have someone who could actually
fight him
a little bit.
And maybe and I know there are a lot of Star Wars fans who maybe are on the fence on this, but I'm very against Yoda using a lightsaber and being able to fight. And I know maybe some people, I think maybe the general consensus is, everyone thought that was a bad idea, because Yoda was supposed to be kind of like this, I don't need to fight, I'm so strong in the Force that I have mastered this, I am a Jedi master. And so in the original trilogy, you had Yoda where he was just more of like, all right, I'm gonna move a ship out of the swamp, no sweat.
Right.
Or I'm going to order you around Dagobah on your shoulders and stuff like that. And I don't need to fight. I've got this down. And so I felt like that was the character. I mean, he could fight, but for the most part, he was so one with the Force, as he would say, that, people would shoot at him and he would just miss. He would just lean over to the side and they would miss him. Of course, stormtroopers aren't really good shots anyway.
These were a lot better shots than the stormtroopers of old, though.
Maybe because they lost so many. Maybe that base is where all the really good stormtroopers were, and when they blew up the base,
that was the elite garrison.
Think about how many when they just at the very end. Getting off track here. When they blew up that planet at the end, how many Imperial personnel were on that planet?
Lots.
That they were like, oh, we don't want the Death Star plans to get leaked here. So it'll just blow up an entire base and millions of people. People just lived on that one little island versus the whole planet of billions of people.
In a way, it makes it sort of helps lend to the whole idea of the rebellion, though, because even if you are an Imperial, say you were on your shuttle mission or whatever, and you'd gone off and you're coming back, and there's a big space battle, and you see this big Imperial station just kill all your friends. You know what I'm saying? It was a big impetus for, wow, maybe this isn't the organization I want to work for, because I'm pretty expendable.
Well, you would think it would kind of motivate the rebellion when this big Death Star, if we're going to stop them, now is the time.
Yeah, and if you're an Imperial working for the Empire and you see, all my friends are dead, well, gotta go the other way.
Something I did enjoy, to not be too hard on them, it does have the look, the costuming, the feel, where it feels like it fits in that Star Wars world, which I enjoy. I think that's a lot of fun. If we get some more movies kind of in that era that feel like they belong to that world, I would enjoy that.
Yeah, it feels very... the costuming was very 70s sci-fi, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, really good.
Going back to a point I made earlier, one thing I was happy about were the inclusion of characters and how you say it all fits in the puzzle piece. But those characters, when they introduce them in the Clone Wars and they keep that character going on, obviously they kind of probably had the idea for Rogue One years ago of making the story. I don't think Lucasfilm and Disney, any character inclusion in any of the side media is an accident. That I think that we might... Ideally, I think I'd like to start seeing characters from the comic books make their way into the movie series.
It could happen.
And the reason why I say that is because Marvel and Disney and Lucasfilm have really been pushing their new Star Wars character, Dr. Aphra. which has a new #1 series that came out this month.
Okay.
And I mean, this character is showing up in the mobile video games. It's just a supporting character from the Darth Vader series that spun off and got her own series. Out of all the Star Wars characters they could do a series on, they do one about this one-off character that's from a Star Wars comic series. And if you read fan reviews of it, this character's taken off. I could see this character maybe popping up in maybe the new Han Solo movie that's coming out as a prequel.
Possible.
I mean, I think your odds are better now than what they were when you didn't have maybe new movies coming out. You have a Dash Rendar or something, but there's nowhere for him to go into live action. Now there is possibly a way for these characters to interpolate back and forth a little easier.
And I will say, though, I was very impressed. The other thing I was pretty impressed with, though this sounds a little dark, I was impressed that pretty much Disney and everybody was okay with like this being a Suicide Squad Dirty Dozen type movie, because if you think about it, because I remember in some of the old school things, it was very concerned with marketing and selling toys, and the toys are out there for Rogue One, but I'm also kind of like, well, but all the main characters are pretty much dead. So, I mean, I'm going to buy this Lego set that's got all of these people that have one mission, and, and now kids will, imagine whatever they want. But, in the old days, the marketing was very big, so you had to make sure that, you had
Well,
these
I understand
characters for sales.
they rolled out a little softer toy line launch intentionally.
Right.
That maybe they're going to have slightly more flavors in the Star Wars box, which could be this one's going to be very toy heavy, this one's going to be a little darker. I mean, maybe that's a smart move.
I think so. The other thing I was going to bring up while I'm thinking about it real quick, and this occurred to me during the Darth Vader castle scene, and I wonder about its inclusion. So he has this older servant guy that's in the dark robes that comes in and says, sorry to disturb you while you're doing this healing thing. And I looked at him, and I keep thinking, and I keep wondering if there's any relation between that character and the Snoke character, like old dark Jedi.
That'd be interesting.
Thing. Like, I cared for your grandfather. Well, I know about you. I'm gonna.
Holy cow!
That was my moment of. I wonder if that's a link. So we'll see.
You have all kinds of thoughts running my head. I never thought about that.
Well,
That's great.
I mean, I would do that if I were Disney, because why not
Drop
tie
something
it?
in there, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are we're kind of at a point where we could go to final thoughts, Matt, if you're ready to go to final thoughts.
A reference, I guess, blink or close your ears and you'll miss it. Two stormtroopers are talking about the T-15s and how I thought they discontinued them, or talking about the discontinuation of the T-15s. Luke owned a T-16,
Yep.
and Bullseye Womp
Rats and his T-16,
which a T-16 looks. He has like a toy one in the scene where C-3PO is getting a bath in A New Hope, and if you had the toys, it looks like an Imperial shuttle. It's like a
Right. It's also made a couple of video game appearances. You could actually fly one in a couple of the Rogue Fighter games.
Yeah. I thought that was a funny little
cool.
reference, and if you weren't really paying attention, you wouldn't have caught that. But I thought it was a fun little nod.
Chris?
Well, I think it's like I said, that was I probably gave you my final thought.
Okay,
which was
very good.
Is that Snoke? Did we just see Snoke? But I don't know. I rank it. If I would rank these Star Wars movies, I would go the original trilogy, Force Awakens, probably Rogue One, and then down into the prequels.
Into the prequels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Matt, what do you think?
I liked it better than you guys.
Okay.
I would say original trilogy, Rogue One, Force Awakens,
okay.
and then you guys are gonna say you're nuts. Phantom Menace, Episode 3, Episode 2.
Actually, I agree with that order completely. Except we just differ on where Force Awakens and Rogue ends up, but I agree with that also.
Force Awakens was great Star Wars movie. There was nothing wrong with it, but there was nothing like great about it. It was just like a very bland Star Wars. It felt very flat. The worlds felt very thin. Where I felt like Rogue One felt grander and felt like I feel like I was in that world when I was watching Road One. I felt Force Awakens. I felt like I was just viewing it from afar. So that's why I felt that way.
Okay. The way that I grew up interacting with Star Wars was pretty much in the films and in the comic books. And so the fact that they've got Star Wars comic books coming out again and they're kind of a big deal again is fun for me. And I like the experience of going to a theater and watching a Star Wars movie. I mean, if they put a Star Wars movie out, I'm probably going to go check it out just because I remember liking that experience so much. So even on one like this where I'm like, well, this is middle of the road. I mean, middle of the road is better than what we were getting for a while in some ways. So I think it's a solid film. I think it is kind of a film for the fans. And if you like interesting little details and seeing where they fit in, this does a really great job of that especially. I don't know if it's going to make anybody a Star Wars fan if you weren't one already. I could be wrong there. But I think if you're already a Star Wars fan, it will give you a lot of things to kind of think about and consider and kind of see how the pieces fit together. So that's where I'm at on that one.
I mean, I don't know how much time we have here. We haven't hit it.
No, you go ahead.
Yet. What about the soundtrack? What do you guys think about that? No, John.
Yeah,
Williams
it wasn't John
soundtrack.
Williams.
It was Michael Giacchino, I believe is his name. I'll look
He's
it up.
a good composer. It worked fine. There were a couple places where I maybe wouldn't have minded a little more Williams type stuff.
The minor key Star Wars theme. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I liked it.
I mean, I don't think we actually ever got the official Star Wars theme except at the end for the credits.
Right.
I want to say it was in the opening scene. There was like a violin-driven theme of the music that I really liked. It was very somber, and it reflected this movie.
Yeah.
After I watched the movie, because I saw it on Thursday night, the next day I had to drive for work to Carnegie, however it's pronounced. And it was like an hour and a half drive, and I downloaded the Star Wars soundtrack on my phone and just listened to the soundtrack just because I wanted to absorb as much of that movie, because I was so excited about it. And you even mentioned merchandising. You know, you're right. There are action figures. Like, I was at Walmart yesterday doing some last-minute Christmas shopping, and I just kind of went through the action figure section just to kind of look, see what they had. They have some, but the action figures, they're not at the... I would say kid toy price point. They're more at the adult collector toy price point, the $20 action figures. They had some $12 ones, but when Force Awakens came out, they had like their under $10 action figures that came with like one weapon, not a whole lot of points of articulation. And I mean, they had a few spaceships and Lego sets, but I remember when Force Awakens came out, Walmart front gondolas.
I think they're doing it a little softer play.
And cups and mugs and tumblers and glasses and calendars. I mean, I was really looking for Rogue One merchandise and didn't find any.
I think that's intentional. And I think if you have, again, I think if you're a 9-year-old and they're thinking you're going to go see Force Awakens, I think if you're a 30-year-old, they're saying go check out Rogue One. I think this is less of a kid movie.
Maybe I should go to Hot Topic. I bet you they probably have a lot of stuff there, you know.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so hey, that was our take on Rogue One. Feel free to let us know what you think as well. We'd love to hear from you. You can tweet at us at Danger Infinite on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, Infinite Danger Room there. Or you can shoot us an email, infinitedangerroom@gmail.com. Also, feel free to leave us a rating or a review on iTunes. You can also listen to us via SoundCloud and via newsok.com. We're here each week talking about comics, film, and related type things, and we'd love to hear from you as well. So once again, for Chris Borthwick and Matt Howlett, I am Matt Price. Thank you for listening.